should have come yesterday. The Speaker, from my point of view, this marginalization is not only economical, but it is also political and geographical. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you are contributing, you explained geographically the route from Nairobi to Garissa and all the way to your constituency. And you passed through my constituency, which is very hurried. Mr. Speaker, I have been hearing of this fund for some time, but I've not seen its impact. Those marginalized areas, they still remain marginalized, and I hope this bill come to correct that problem. Mr. Speaker, Mwingi Central, where I come from and I represent, very marginalized and does not benefit from this fund. I hope this bill will come to correct this problem so that Mwingi Central can benefit from better roads, water, electricity, health facilities, and also people can enjoy cake of Kenya. Those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
For West Mugirango, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, and then there's
You have all the time tonight. We're going up to 9 o'clock by day for information.
If you are to 9 o'clock, I'm happy.
Yes,
Mr.
take your
Speaker.
time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And at the outset, I support this bill, and it is for the following reasons. I represent West Mugirango constituency, Mr. Speaker, which is among the most marginalized constituencies on earth. Why? Because West Mugirango members of parliament are endowed with taking the position which are people-centric. And many a times a people-centric position does not go well with the government of the day. And that is why when Honorable Joe Justice Morara stood up asking the Kenyatta government why the person who killed Tom Mboya was walking and enjoying himself in Zambia when we had been told that he had been slaughtered, that constituency got blacklisted.
Order, Honorable Mugaka. Don't slaughter people. They're hanged.
Yes, I'm guided. I'm guided, Mr. Speaker. Yes, a person sentenced to death and allegedly hanged in committee was enjoying himself in Zambia after killing Honorable Tom Mboya. And when my member of parliament at the time raised that question, the government of the day responded, and Honorable Joe Justice Morara died in a suspicious road accident in Kakamega. And followed by Tom Mongare from the same constituency who never completed his term, followed by Honorable Henry Obocha, who stood up to President Daniel Arap Moi, and because of that position, that constituency suffered heavily. So there is political marginalization, as they put it. Political choices have political consequences. And that is why a majority of regions in Kenya that have taken certain political positions have always got marginalized. And I want to support this bill. But I will be moving amendments because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot make this fund be again an extension of the county governments, because Article 204 is very clear that the national government must use this fund to correct historical injustices, to correct marginalization. And therefore, to cede this fund and devolve it, we will be doing the wrong thing and it will be unconstitutional. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, when I look at the composition of the board, where it is national government heavy and it omits the representation of the constituency, save that it is providing somewhere that the fund manager represents or appears in that committee. Mr. Speaker, this bill is oblivious of the court judgment that made the NGCDF unconstitutional, and therefore, by extension, we will not be having fund managers, assuming that judgment continues being the state of the law in this country. And therefore, we must move an amendment and align the representation or at constituency level, not to be that of a civil servant through the NGCDF board, but to be the representative of the elected member of parliament in that constituency. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the roads, West Mogrango is one of those constituencies that do not enjoy any bitumen road, when other constituencies were given a minimum of 60 kilometers of bitumen, those roads never reached West Mogrango constituency. It is therefore curious that we have an equalization fund that does not notice that and make a provision for compensating West Mogrango constituency with bitumen roads. And through this bill, which I will support and make amendments, I want to see electricity being distributed to those marginalized areas like Bokimo, Geseneno, Nyamaya Ward, Nyakunguru, and other areas that are dark today, including Bosamaru Ward. Mr. Speaker, I would talk and talk and talk, but because I want my colleagues, particularly my neighbor in West Mogrango, the MP for Borabu, Honorable Osero, who, Mr. Speaker, your eyes have not noticed, I will want to stop it there and say I support.
For equalization fund to provide roads in Kusiland.
Yes, I am saying, Mr. Speaker, that political choices in this country have consequences. And the larger Nyanza region, for its political position historically, has suffered heavily. And Gusii region, including Western Mogrango constituency, is part of that. That is why, as I speak today, for the last 20 years, West Mogrango constituency has had no allocation of any bitumen road. And I'm saying it is curious that the equalization fund does not capture that level of marginalization and provide for support for that constituency. And I will be bringing amendments, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that constituencies that are clearly marginalized like West Mogrango and the greater Nyanza region get captured, because that is really where this equalization fund should be expended. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Thank you, sir. I was just thinking that what has been happening to Kisii and the larger Nyanza region is due to political marginalization. It is intended. I was thinking that largely it is due to budget distortions, which we could deal with in the context of the role given to this House to budget. Let me say the budget committee, we all agree needed to be looking at that equity in terms of how we allocate the resources around. I doubt that as for argument, it is for contribution only.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you for that highlight. And indeed, at the appropriate time, and I hope Kimani Kuria is listening, we will be pushing that we have an itemized budget, because we have so far been taken for a ride where we pass balloon figures here and people go back and go and protect certain lines, so that when they go to the ministries have nothing to do, because that money is locked to certain regions, to certain roads, thereby marginalizing certain regions of this country. The time for reparation, Mr. Speaker, is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. I support the bill firmly.
Yes, the mic did not come, but it is your chance to speak, Honorable Manyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support depth because I come from Busia County, where Article 260 has given me a lot of hopes because it defines marginalized communities that have been, it's like communities that have been unable to fully participate in socio-economical activities, meaning Busia is part of these marginalized areas because if you think of floods, every time we have a lot of rain, Busia County in Budalangi, many homes are swept away and families, women and children live in tents. And if you are displaced in your own nation, what another family in Eastern faces because of drought, a family in Busia faces that same challenge of having the opposite of that. And if you look at Article 204, we need to use the funds appropriately and targeting that by by a year that has been mentioned, maybe offset year, maybe from now 20 years to come, every marginalized area must have proper infrastructure. I compare many developed nations like Dubai, Qatar, that are in deserts. What exactly did they do with the funds? They improved infrastructure, created modern cities that are now tourist attraction places. They have piped clean water. The health institutions are working. We pump in a lot of money yearly to marginalized areas, but I think our priorities are upside down. I get many tear-stained letters in my office from places like Changara in Angurai East and Bwiri Ward in Funyula and Budalangi, the whole sub-county. People expressing how desperate they are and when anybody will ever listen to their cry, because you cannot write a letter for floods to come and you cannot also write a letter for drought to come. But you can do a few things, baby steps into preventing and also making it better for future generations. So those who have never traversed this nation, they might have been in America or UK, but they have never been to Bwiri Ward in Funyula. They have never been to Angurai East in Teso North. They've never been to Budalangi. So many people, when you mention marginalized, they think of Eastern, not Eastern alone. But having been born and raised in Busia, we have pockets of marginalized areas in Busia County. And some people even make jokes whenever we have floods. They say Serikali's idea, and they are mentioning Budalangi and other few places in Kenya that also receive a lot of rains or overflows from the lake. So I want to support and make sure that when we repeal and top up this bill, we make sure that we rivet in a few things that will make sure that areas that have left out are also in the bill, so that we grow as a nation and not few areas in Kenya having it all and other areas lacking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Agnes Pereira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the Equalization Fund bill. From onset, I think equalization means bringing those communities or groups that were intentionally, let me say so, left behind while others are ahead of them. And it is clear in the Constitution and define who these communities are. And if you want to see them, don't go far. Come to Narok, where I represent. As you were contributing, I was almost crying because Narok is very near to Nairobi. And people can think that people in Narok have electricity, can think that people in Narok have water, can think people in Narok have roads. We are at a pathetic condition. Just the other day, I want to thank His Excellency the President. When we went to him, we told him we have no electricity. He did send people to go and do a survey. And when they came back, he deliberately allocated 100 million to us because he didn't also think that that was the situation. The 100 million is like a drop in the ocean. We still have no electricity. And here we are saying that Kenya have developed. How can it develop while other people are left behind? So for me, I support this bill with amendments because we need to go back and know who the beneficiaries are, because the beneficiaries are clear in the Constitution. And again, we want to set a board that will manage these funds, because as we speak, this money is neither in this parliament, nor in the Senate, and nor at the council. So this money is just like money that will be there for a short period, then it disappears the way it used to be. When you look at these areas that are indicated to benefit from the equalization funds, you still see people, we don't know who went there again, decided on the sub-locations that will benefit, while the other sub-locations will not benefit. So that's why I say that I support this bill with amendments, so that we can critically look at the issues that are there, so that tomorrow again, we will not come here saying that this bill is not good. We need a bill that will help the marginalized communities or the marginalized groups, as you call them. But what I know is that it is clear that in this Kenya, there are marginalized communities. And if we don't deal with that, you will find that in this house, the committees that are involved in sharing the money like the budgets, still we need to look at them, because they are also marginalizing us as we sit here. And that one I can support from how the money is being shared. So we need to be serious, and I want to call other members to support this bill with amendments so that we can, all of us, enjoy this cake. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Agnes. Honorable.
Asante sana.
Honorable Badi, minute, you will be followed by Honorable Joseph Donui for clarity.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kuweza kunipatia fursa na mimi kuchangia katika mswada huu. Bao mswada huu tukiangalia Mheshimiwa Spika katika kipengee cha katiba 204.2 yasema kuwa katika sehemu yatakana kuangaziwa zaidi ni mambo ya maji, mambo ya miundo msingi, mambo ya barabara na vile vile mambo ya stima na electricity. Kawi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Farah Maalim, mzee wangu, mentor. Kwa hivyo nashukuru sana Mheshimiwa Kaluma kwa kusema haya. Nataka kusema kwa naunga mkono kama vile mheshimiwa ambaye ameongea sasa hivi kusema kuwa naunga mkono, lakini tunahitaji tuupige msasa mswada huu. Nikisema tunahitaji tuupige msasa mswada huu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kama vile wewe mwenyewe ulivyozungumza. Ulizungumza hapa ukasema, Mheshimiwa Spika, Homa Bay County tukiangalia ilipawa milioni 6 peke yake. Na mimi Jomvu nataka kusema Mheshimiwa Rosa Buya alipokuwa commissioner katika Andrew Ligale Commission, yeye Mheshimiwa Rosa Buya ndio mtu ambaye alikuja kule na commission yake yote, wakaja wakaona Jomvu yatakana kukatwa kutoka kwa Changamwe. na mwaka 2013 Mheshimiwa Spika, Jomvu ikaweza kukatwa kwa sababu katika sehemu ya Jomvu ilikuwa hakuna maendeleo. Yakiangaliwa maendeleo, ilikuwa uongozi wakati ule imekwenda katika sehemu ya Changamwe peke yake. Na namshukuru Mheshimiwa Rozabuya baada ya 2013 kunikatie constituency ile pamoja na Andrew Ligale, na yeye 2017 alikuja bunge na akaweza kuhudumu kwa vipindi viwili mpaka sasa tunafanya kazi na yeye. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, kitu ambacho mimi nataka kusema, hii kitu inaitwa Equalization Fund. Yenyewe kama vile inavyozungumziwa kwa Kiswahili tuweza sema ni fund ambayo ama ni mswada ambao wataka kuleta usawa. Na katika kuleta usawa, Mheshimiwa Spika, kitu ambacho nataka kusema mimi, maana ya usawa ni kumaanisha eneo bunge lako Mheshimiwa Kaluma liwe liko sawa na eneo bunge la Jomvu, liwe liko sawa na eneo bunge la Mheshimiwa Farah Maalim, liwe liko sawa na eneo bunge nyingine. Na hapa twaona imesemekana ni kaunti 14 peke yake. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kuzungumza kitu leo tofauti kabisa. Katika kaunti 14 hapa hakuna kaunti yetu ya Mombasa. Na ukiangalia kaunti ya Mombasa, wengi sana wana fikra ya kuwa ni kaunti ambayo ni ya kidosi, ni kaunti ambayo watu wana pesa, ni kaunti ambayo kila kitu kiko sawa, ni kaunti ambayo iko mjini. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kusema leo ukiangalia katika eneo bunge langu la Jomvu, shida kubwa sana ambayo inakumba watu wangu wa Jomvu ni mambo ya ukosefu wa maji. Na maji hakuna, mpaka ukiangalia katika sehemu ya Miroroni na sehemu nyingine utahurumia Mheshimiwa Spika. Na tukitizama kipengee cha kikatiba cha 204.2 chasema moja ya pesa hizi ni masuala ya mambo ya maji. Vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, nachukua fursa hii mimi kutoizungumza constituency peke yake. Nikiwa kiongozi wa kitaifa nitaizungumza kaunti mzima kwa jumla. Ukenda Kisauni shida ya maji ni hiyo hiyo. Ukenda Likoni shida ya maji ni hiyo hiyo. Ukenda sehemu nyingine zozote shida ya maji ni hizo hizo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tumemuona Mheshimiwa Rais William Ruto leo alikuja mwaka 2018 akaanzisha barabara ya kuweza kuunganisha Jomvu na Rabai, ambao ni kuunganisha kaunti ya Mombasa na vile vile kuunganisha katika kaunti ya Kilifi, ambapo barabara ile mpaka leo mimi nalia Mheshimiwa Spika kusema kwa kuna mahali padogo ambapo paitwa Jitoni hapajaweza kumalizika, ambapo pesa zile tukitizama tungelia kwenye Equalization Fund. Lakini Rais William Ruto aliamua kututengezea barabara ile, lakini wale wahusika wa kutengeza barabara hiyo wanambwaga Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kipande kidogo cha Jitoni ambacho hawataki kumaliza kwa mambo yao wenyewe. Kamati ya petition ilikuja mpaka hapo Mheshimiwa Spika, ikiongozwa na mwenyekiti wa petition committee, ambaye walikuja mpaka pale wakaangalia na wakaona kweli barabara ile yatakana kutengenezwa. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka kusema kitu kimoja. Ukiangalia barabara hiyo yaunganisha Kilifi, ukiangalia Jomvu yangu ndio Dungo Kundu yaanzisha kwenda kuunganisha katika Kwale, ukiangalia constituency yangu yashikana na Kaloleni, ukiangalia constituency yangu yashikana na Mvita. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kukuambia juu ya haya mambo ya fedha hizi, tusiangalia Mombasa tu. Mfano kama Likoni kwa Mheshimiwa Meshi, waingia Likoni lakini mwisho wa Likoni waingia Kwale. Kwa hivyo ukiangalia ni sehemu ambazo zahitaji barabara na zahitaji mambo mengi sana. Ukiangalia katika mambo ya kawi, sehemu nyingi sana hazina kufikiwa katika mambo hayo ya kawi. Nenda Mbuyu wa Chapa hakuna kawi katika constituency yangu ama eneo bunge langu. Nenda Miroroni hakuna kawi, ambao kuna shule mimi nimejenga mpaka junior secondary iko pale. CBC twatengeneza pale, yatakikana kuanzisha program za kompyuta. Tutafanya na nini Mheshimiwa Spika bila mambo ya kawi? Kwa hivyo wenzetu walinena na wamesema zaidi juu ya haya. Kila kiongozi anaingia, pesa hizi azifuta katika sehemu yake. Kila kiongozi anaingia, pesa hizi anazivuta katika sehemu yake, na unaona watu wengine pia viongozi wanatoka kwenye sehemu zao, lakini pia nao wanakuwa victims of circumstances, ama tunaona kuwa wao wanafanywa katika hali ya kudhulumiwa. Mfano kama Mheshimiwa Kiboreki amesema hapa kwa Baringo, Moi alitoka huko. Kwa hivyo serikali zilizofuata zilikuwa na fikra ya kuwa Baringo hahitaji lolote kwa vile Moi alikuwa bado yuko katika ile sehemu ya pale. Kwa hivyo mimi, Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kusema leo katika haya mambo ya kusema kuwa hizi kaunti 14, moja kaunti ya Mombasa pia iingizwe hapo ndani katika kupiga msasa. Kwa ajili kaunti ya Mombasa tukiangalia haina ukulima. Kaunti ya Mombasa tukiangalia hakuna madini. Kaunti ya Mombasa tukiangalia mpaka uprovide services, ufanye kazi na kazi hakuna. Vijana hawana kazi, vijana wazunguka, vijana makampuni ukenda kule kuambia tangu corona hakuna kazi. Kwa hivyo tukiangalia katika masala haya, watu wasitupake mafuta. Sisi pia tunaumia, na sisi pia twastahili tupate mkate kama vile watu wengine wanavyopata mkate ndani ya kaunti ya Mombasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kuchukua fursa hii kwa niaba yangu, mjumbe wa Jomvu, kutoa rambirambi zangu mimi, familia yangu na wananchi wangu wa Jomvu kwa seneta wa Baringo Mheshimiwa William Cheptumo, ambaye tuliweza pia kufanya naye kazi katika bunge hili, na vile vile kutoa rambirambi zetu kwa Mheshimiwa Malulu Injendi, Mheshimiwa wa Malava, eneo bunge la Malava. Nikisema hivyo, nataka kusema kwa Mheshimiwa Injendi alikuwa ni mtu wa busara sana, na busara yake, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa ukiiona mpaka kwenye kifua chake. Akitembea unaona pale msalaba anaweka pale. Sio kama vile watu wengine wakitembea jipanua vifua, lakini yeye alikuwa amemweka Mungu mbele, akitoa ushauri. Mungu ailaze roho yake mahali pema peponi. Lakini twaomba pesa hizi Homa Bay County isipewe tena milioni 6 kama ulivyopa wakati ule, uongezewe wewe pia Mheshimiwa Spika, na kutetea pia hapa, na vile vile Mombasa tuwe tutawekwa ndani tupate pesa hizi. Kwa haya mengi nakushukuru, nashukuru kurekebishwa na kuongozwa na Mheshimiwa Farah Maalim, mzee wangu, na asante kwa kunipa nafasi hii. Asante sana.
Honorable members, the Parliament clock was 9 p.m. Was 9 p.m. Is it 9 or 9:30? Yeah, up to 9 p.m. So there is no hurry. Think through this matter, and maybe I remind members that this is not an ordinary fund. Let us not seek to address the iniquities in our budgeting distortion to be cured by an equalization fund. And let me request the members to read marginalized community, what it means, particularly at Article 260, the definition of marginalized community D. And I'm saying this for the sake of Honorable Badi, who says this fund should also go to Mombasa. It says the marginalized community means pastoral persons and communities, whether they are nomadic or a settled community that, because of its relative geographical isolation, has experienced only marginal participation in the integrated social and economic life of Kenya as a whole. I imagine it is what Honorable Farah Maalim in his contribution was saying to mean there are parts of Kenya you go to and they tell you when you come from Nairobi, how is Kenya? Their geographical isolation and marginalization. So there are matters we can address through our budgeting, and let us agree that despite the authority to budget having been brought here, we have not been doing very well. Because as members of parliament, it means on behalf of the people, I should be asking, what about Homa Bay? MP for Borabu should be asking, what about Borabu? We've been having budgeting here where the budgeting has ensured that some people have attained 100% electrification. When Kalumas, who sometimes presides over committee on supply, Homa Bay town is below 30%, and it is called town, and it is the county headquarters. There are those we can address through ensuring equity in budget as representatives of the people. But then there are those for which this fund was created. And yet also there are those for which we created evolution. So let us not shift all our inadequacies to equalization fund, which is barely 0.5% of the revenues collected by the nation. Honorable Joseph Tonui had recognized you to speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, giving me this voice concerning this session fund bill. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I support this bill with amendments. The purpose of this fund, Mr. Speaker, from my own opinion, is to equalize the development in our country. I'm saying I support with amendments because I also come from a constituency, Mr. Speaker, which is seriously marginalized in terms of electricity, in terms of roads, and even hospitals. There is a ward in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, without even a single piece of a tarmac road. That is a ward known as Tinet. People are just hearing about tarmac roads, but some people in my constituency not seeing this. And I want to request that come up with amendments so that also some regions in our constituencies all over the country, we also considered this fund. Because we have some pockets which are seriously marginalized. And I want to urge the committee who will be in charge of this fund to practice transparency, accountability. And, Mr. Speaker, that's
the information from Honorable Farah Malim.
Oh, I need information.
Yeah, Honorable Farah Malim, give Honorable Tunui the information.
I just want to seriously emphasize what you belabored very hard to explain to the members of parliament. That we do understand that there are serious developmental disparities in the country. But the very principal object, spirit of the Equalization Fund was just addressing certain counties that have a historical, and I'll tell you, the former NFD and contiguous areas. You see what I mean? So I want us to address your issue very hard, but of course it's not possible to involve it under this. We have to do it in a budgetary, what do you call, equity structure. Thank you.
That is why I'm talking of amendments, Honorable Speaker. I want to propose that more funds added. Fund. Yes, so that, yes. I'm from Nakuru, but we have some areas in Nakuru which are seriously marginalized. I also come from the pastoralist community. I have a community known as the Okik. Yes. Community. Yes. Which I feel also because Otherwise, finally, Honorable Speaker, I had not gotten a chance to pass a vote of condolence. One Senator Chief, prominent lawyer, served. We have lost great people. Say that. Thank you.
The MP for Abu, Honorable Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, albeit a bit late. Right from the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say I support the bill with amendments. Mr. Speaker, it is a shame that 60 years after independence, we are talking about equality, trying to equalize communities. This at a time, 2025, where we see some people, some regions even advertising their CDF programs on national TV and saying how much they have gotten, how much their constituencies are developed. This is on national TV. You really wonder, then why doesn't Mheshimiwa Mbadi or anybody else advertise? And as you rightly put it, Mr. Speaker, something needs to be done with our budgeting. We need to overhaul our budget committee and the way we budget so that it is itemized and it is focused to certain program and ring-fenced to avoid any interference. Mr. Speaker, it is very disheartening when you go back home and somebody is asking you, how come so-and-so has paved roads up to nursery schools, has tarmac up to primary schools, and you wonder then, what was this budget all about? So, Mr. Speaker, you rightly put it. We need to focus on our budgeting process. Coming back to this bill, equalization bill, Mr. Speaker, it is true, there's historical marginalization that has been happening. And I don't believe this is the panacea for this. This is just a drop in the ocean. Devolution came. Devolution should have equalized. So what is this equalization again if devolution has not equalized? That means that the devolution that came 10, 15 years ago has not managed to actually address the economic marginalization of other communities. And this is where the point of the historical injustices should come in. And we should do a mathematical, or rather a scientific analysis of the marginalization for the last 60 years. And then now we can appropriate fairly. But just putting a blanket law that we want to equalize other, some areas that have been marginalized, I don't believe that that can work at this particular point in time because of the historical injustices. Number two, Mr. Speaker, we have seen the effects of devolution. Fine, rural-urban immigration may have fallen, but activities, normal, money follows activities. In my constituency in Borabu, for instance, we had issues of cattle rustling, and our neighbors, we realized that there was little economic activity across. Immediately we put some economic development, the cattle rustling went down. And this is the same issue, because I believe some of these issues at the NFD were issues of the shifter, the 60s and 70s, and that is why the government shunned. But now with the peace that we have there, if we put this particular fund into good use and good cause, I believe that this migration of people coming into towns and cities will slow down, and we'll have a lot of resources back down there. Thank you. Yeah.
You want to be informed?
Yeah,
by Honorable Farah Malim. Honorable Farah.
I really best last bit because he said, and I said this before, we don't develop those northern areas. Every time there is a vagaries of weather and there's a cycle of drought, 200,000 pastoralists lose their livelihoods. When they lose their livelihoods, they don't have factories there, they don't have tea farms there, they don't have coffee farms there. There's nothing to keep them in the region. So what do? They have centers here. That's why you see within the urban settings, whether it is from Kisumu to Migori to everybody, I mean, if you ask a good friend, Junet, how he ended up in Migori, he will tell you, my father lost his livestock. We came to look for a livelihood there, 60 years back, 70 years back. And as he puts it, if we're going to develop those areas, then not only will we not get many people migrating from that to the other urban centers, but we'll have Kenyans living here, taking advantage of that long expanse of, and become a productive way in which we can have a breadbasket in those. And that was the very idea of opening up the place with only 4 functions, 4 core functions: roads, electricity, water and health. Period. And that was outside the county. Everybody knows that the counties have got their own roles there to try and equalize. But of course, these were areas that were national, that functions that were national. And unless you put in heavy, what they call government investments into that, then you will not be able to bring that area at par with the rest of the country. So thank you very much. I mean, it addresses some of that urban, kind of migration from one part of the country to the other country for people who are seeking livelihoods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mheshimiwa Farah. I think then, Junet, that was a blessing in disguise. They migrated and eventually became a member of parliament. Now, Mr. Speaker, lastly, I would wish to say, in this spirit of the broad-based government, honestly, if there is equity and we want to be one thing, the way the president says, putting our people together, togetherness cannot be achieved without equity. And let there be equity. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I did not have a chance also to send, sorry? And equality. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I also did not have an opportunity to condole with the House. Malulu Injendi, I was not here in the first term. This is my first term, but I just remember he always adorned the rosary. Very soft gentleman. Say Paul to the family, and that of Baringo Senator. On behalf of the people of Borabu, I wish to send my sincere condolences. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I wanted to give preference to our Honorable Jessica. You want to speak to them? Do, because you have other national duties to engage in for the good of Kenyan society.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I stand to support the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2023 by the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. So, Speaker, on the onset, I must say that I'll support this with amendments. And Mr. Speaker, I would wish not to correct my very good member, in the Speaker's panel, who seems to think that the Equalization Fund is for his own county. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of debate, and members are free to debate. Members are free to represent their constituencies. I am here representing Kibwezi's constituency in Makueni County. And those 4 functions that, Mr. Speaker, you really defined for us. And the Honorable, my very good friend, I don't want to talk about his name because I don't want him to interject me, said the same functions. Issues of water, Kibwezi's constituency in Makueni County. And because we are talking about counties, let me speak about my county, Makueni County. We do not have water. And as you defined the Marginalization Fund, the Equalization Fund, Mr. Speaker, it is one place. Yes, we are on Mombasa Road, but we only hear lorries passing from Nairobi to Mombasa. And you said it, as you said it very clear, that some of them ask us, how is Nairobi? And we came to Nairobi, where the house is, Safara Malim. We came to Nairobi to represent them in this house. And when we go there, we'll tell them, yes, it is true. The 4 functions are not in our constituency, are not in our counties. Mr. Speaker, the issue of roads, the tarmac roads. If you go to Garissa, you'll find tarmac roads. We only see the Nairobi-Mombasa road. Yet inside wards, if you go on the Zambani ward, Tange ward, all the way to Masongaleni ward, Mutiti Wandei ward, we have no tarmac roads. And those are the functions that have been defined in this equalization fund, Mr. Speaker. We are here to represent our people. And I'm sure the constituencies, every member speaks on behalf of their people. I am here to speak on behalf of the people of Makueni, the issues of water. Women go for almost 20 minutes, 2 hours, just to come with a 20-liter jerrycan of water. Seriously? Are we not supposed to be included in the equalization fund? The equalization fund is not about distance. I know going to Garissa, going to Isiolo, going to other places, you may have a lot of hours to travel. But somewhere even near here, Rongai, you may find those people, Kenyans, need these functions and need these services. And so, Mr. Speaker, as you have a background, the reason why we are having this equalization fund, Mr. Speaker, is to put together inequalities, the historical ones, to ensure that, Mr. Speaker, at least there is equalization. We are equal. All Kenyans are equal. All Kenyans are equal. There's no Kenyan who deserves better services than the other. And so I really call upon the committees that are looking into this, please to go into those data, the empirical data, to find out how do we come up with these counties. We could be doing ourselves a lot of, putting ourselves in problems just because we have 14 counties. This is Kenya. Serious, and some people feel, and that's why you are seeing the Gen Zs are coming out. They know better than us. Even as we discuss here, they know where there's water. They know that there are no roads. Like talk about Kambu, Darajani, going all the way as we promote education to Lukenya University. Somewhere down there in Kibwezi, Makueni County, where there is facility at university. We have looked for roads, tarmacking. Please go for almost 50 kilometers. And there's no road. Seriously? Are these not children of mothers? Are these not children of Kenya? So even I'll call upon, and the issue of budgeting. Mr. Speaker, I think it's a high time, and Farah Maalim has been in my place even campaigning, and he knows the area very well. In fact, I remember him asking, Jessica, is this where you come from? But there's no even grass. When the camels come from their place to come to our place, in fact, we just like they come and find there's totally even no grass. Are we not the same? So, Mr. Speaker, I really call upon this committee. I really call upon to look into it and know the members who are here, we are represented places, and we know better. Kibwezi, Mr. Speaker, we need this equalization. This is Makueni County. And I want to call upon the committee to come and see for themselves, Mr. Speaker. And for us to be able to just to come on to debate on this house and say it is true that we have seen and we have been able to identify the areas, not sitting on a table, not sitting somewhere, not budgeting a thingy because I know what I want in this. This is what I will going to say the 14 counties are. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I call upon ourselves to be sober even as we debate this. If it is not possible for us, according to the definition of the equalization fund, and why we have it here, Mr. Speaker, we would rather even have a kamkunch, and all members put. We even form another committee together with the committee that is doing the job, Mr. Speaker, to go and see these areas. While we are here, we are elected by the people in our constituencies, in our counties, Mr. Speaker, to speak on their behalf. Mr. Farah Maalim, I know your constituencies amongst the ones that have been put here. And I just like the way you're trying to explain and give information to members. We all know that. We all know that. This is a house of debate. And this is where we make the laws. This is where our voice is heard. This is where we speak on behalf of our people. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2023 with amendments. We'll be coming together and putting amendments that this House should adopt. And when we go back home, we'll all be happy. It will have made our people happy, and we would have advised Kenya in general. I thank you.
This, or we go straight to Honorable Geoffrey Ruku. Honorable Geoffrey Ruku will be followed by Honorable Chimu Githinji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have very mixed reactions as far as this bill is concerned. Because, Mr. Speaker, we have a country which has been existent for quite some time now, ran by different administrations, from colonial administration to Jomo Kenyatta administration, to Moi administration, Kibaki administration, Uhuru Kenyatta administration, and now William Ruto administration. When you see other nations on how they run their affairs, the constitutional democracies across the world, some of the democracies, Mr. Speaker, have their president have powers to issue executive orders on what should be done with immediate effect so that things can change within a society. Most of the members in this House, they represent extremely marginalized areas. In terms of a constituency which is 771 square kilometers in a semi-arid area, and it has only 38 kilometers of road from 1963 up to now. In terms of water connection in the household in that constituency, it is less than 20% of the household. In terms of power connectivity, in the household of that society where even about 4 the dams which generate power in this country come from, the power connectivity of the household is less than 25%. The agroecological zone of the same constituency does not support the agricultural activities in terms of maize growing, beans growing, cereals which are used in our community, in our household on a day-to-day basis, that we can have 5-7 seasons which are filled consecutively. You find, Mr. Speaker, the children of that of this community I'm talking about, which I represent, who are born gifted, bright children, are marginalized. They don't have an opportunity as the rest of the children in the Republic of Kenya to grow in an environment which they can utilize their full potential. And we sit here, Honorable Speaker, discuss a bill on how some of these things can be achieved in different communities of our society, of our nation. When we have an administration which can wake up and decide moving forward, this is how the monies of this nation are going to be allocated, are going to be utilized, spent the most prudent way to ensure those who have been marginalized for many years are able to have a rebirth on the social amenities which are provided in other parts of the country. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that we seriously need an equalization fund bill, law,
so that we can be able to achieve some of these things. I think we have the necessary institutions. We have an extremely powerful presidency, office of the president, given powers by the people of the republic to utilize the resources in the most prudent manner. Remember, Mr. Speaker, the budget which is forwarded in this House by the executive, we can only change it to a certain percentage. And I understand it's not more than 5%. That demonstrates how powerful the executive is. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, equalization fund law is needed. But also we need to ask ourselves, what is this we have not done? What is this we have failed the people of the Republic? Why should we have a semi-arid constituency of 771 square kilometers with that 8 kilometers of tarmac road in the year 2025? When we have some other areas which have tarmac road of about coverage of 70, 80%. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, our Constitution talks about equalization fund. The framers of our Constitution, in their own wisdom, as well as the people of Kenya, through the promulgation of this Constitution, adorned themselves the provision of our laws that we have equalization fund. Mr. Speaker, it is now 14 years, 15 years, it's now from 2013 to now, it's over 10 years since we enacted our Constitution, promulgated our Constitution. One of the things which we are supposed to do immediately as a people, as this House, is to ensure how this equalization fund can be utilized. But it has taken us ages, a decade, to be here discussing this. I think, Mr. Speaker, it's shameful. We are letting down Kenyans. The people we represent, we are letting them down. Because this Constitution was promulgated 2013. It is now over 10 years, a decade. This Constitution talks about equalization fund. We are failing our people in many aspects. And I think it is very important, Mr. Speaker, we put up we up our game as a House, as a leadership, as an administration. Finally, Mr. Speaker, how true, we have many funds at the moment, very many funds. Women fund, youth fund, constituency development fund, sport, I don't know. We have several funds across our laws which have enacted. We are now coming up with another fund, calling it, giving it a very nice name. Fund, yes, our Constitution talks about it. Yes, it has been there. We are now doing coming up with the administration aspect. Even if it has been there, I have not seen anything which this fund has done for the last 10 years. We were talking about the equalization money before we went to the recess and the dispute which arose because we could not agree. So if this fund has been there, we are coming up with administration rules and regulation on how it can be managed. We have other funds which have also been there. And recently, the cabinet came up with A number of funds which should be merged, others done away with. Because they are failed Kenyans. Because they are failed Kenyans. So we should ensure, as we come up with this administration bid as far as the equalization fund is concerned, it will not go down as another fund which is failing Kenyans. Speaker, sometimes I feel disappointed on how we run the affairs of this nation. But I know a day is coming when we will get it right. And I know, Mr. Speaker, the President of the nation, all what can be able to do, get it right. But if need,
Give Honorable Ruku 1 minute.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. If need be, let's start seeing executive orders which can go a long way in ensuring the communities which have been marginalized over the years, water is there, electricity connectivity is there, proper roads are there. Can't wait until we have this so that we achieve some of these things. This administration can be able to achieve that. Let's see it being implemented, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Ishimu Gidinji.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
It's now time for Honorable.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity, Honorable Speaker. And since Parliament has lost us who will probably be also participating in such a debate, and unfortunately, God has found it fit to promote them, I hereby take also this opportunity to eulogize Honorable Malulu Ijendi, and my sincere condolences to the family. And also, let me also eulogize Honorable Cheptumo, Senator from Baringo, and also my sincere condolences to the family. And God give them strength to withstand the loss of their loved ones, who we also loved as members of this Parliament. And Honorable Speaker, now going to the debate in contributing to this, I generally support the passage of the law in tandem with the Article 204 of the Constitution on Equalization Fund. But I associate myself, and I was impressed by your contribution, Honorable Speaker, when you're contributing, but on this other side, that this is a law that requires a lot of input and a lot of panel beating to give effect Article 204 of the Constitution. The historical bit that was also given by Honorable Malim Ahmed was also an eye-opener to this Parliament for people who could not understand how it came to being. Under which...
Honorable Gishimu have not recognized Honorable Badibadi. So you continue with your contribution.
Honorable Speaker, I'm actually continuing, and I never handed a which standing under he rose to, but Honorable Speaker, let me also say that a lot of research needs to be put before this bill comes into law. Because as also Honorable Badi member for John said, that there are also other communities that are also marginalized. They may not be necessarily pastoral communities. And if you look at the definition of a marginalized group and marginalized community, because there are two definitions here. I'm missing the benefit of a definition of a marginalized area in the Constitution. But there are two definitions of a marginalized community and a marginalized group. But in this case, Honorable Speaker, I'll go by the marginalized community. Because a marginalized group is the one that has also referred to Article 27(4), where it talks about a person who has been discriminated on other aspects. And when it comes to be a marginalized group, it's like a plural of a person. So I will go by the provision of services under the Equalization Fund to marginalized community in this case. Then it would imply that then the marginalized community is the one that lives in a marginalized area. Because under Article 204 talks about a marginalized area. And an area, it's a community that lives there. So if you look at the definition.
Honorable Farah, you should be listening to Honorable Gishimu Gidinji. This is a top lawyer, and the distinction he's making is very critical. Remember, funds are given to the people. So in as much as we are talking about marginalized area, you don't give fund to area, you give to the people. And so he's saying you need to listen to him, draw the distinction between marginalized group and marginalized community. And why the fund, in terms of the definition of marginalized area, should borrow from marginalized community. Proceed, because this is important for all members.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I said I elect in the spirit of the letter of the Constitution that a marginalized community lives in a marginalized area. So I would leave the definition of a marginalized group to the discriminations under Article 27(4) of the Constitution, which are the other now discriminations about sex, race, and those kind of things. So in this case, the Equalization Fund is supposed to apply to a marginalized community. Now, when we narrow down now to the marginalized community, and where now, that is where now I'm also supporting Honorable Twalib, is if you go under A, we should not also limit ourselves to the pastoralists, because there are 4 definitions or the meanings of a community. If you go to a community that, because of its relatively small population, or any other reason, my emphasis is any other reason, has been unable to fully participate in the integrated social and economic life of Kenya as a whole. So if there is any other reason that makes a certain community not to enjoy, not to have that economic integration, it falls within a marginalized community. And that is why it falls within a marginalized community and a marginalized area. That is why I'm saying, Honorable Speaker, a lot of research needs to be done by whoever, either the Commission of Revenue Allocation across the country. Because if there is a certain community in this country that lacks electricity, lacks water, lacks roads, and we need to define roads also, are we talking about any road or tarmac roads? And also lacks healthy facility. That community or that area is marginalized. In my construction of the definition under the marginalized area, marginalized community A. And then these marginalized communities should not be limited to counties. We might have a county with a small section of it.
Honorable Gishibu Gidinji, we are listening to you more on this interpretation because you are a top lawyer.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
One of the best in this country.
Thank you for that.
But I wanted to request you read the whole of it and you use the ejusdem generis means of interpretation, looking at the kind of communities as a whole comes under the genres mentioned here. Then tell us which kind of communities could be included here. So I'm giving you time, and by the way, I'll even add you time. Can you read the whole of it? Then using the ejusdem generis, guide the House in terms of what communities would be targeted by Equalization Fund.
We may approach the definitions in different
You've read A, so
yes.
kindly help the House with the reading of B, C, and D. What I'm saying is that if you read all of them, there is a thread running through the communities being spoken to, which would be useful to the House to hear as we then engage on this. And I've stopped the watch for you to help, the House with that interpretation as a top lawyer. I know Honorable Kirima will be speaking after you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm persuaded to follow, because actually, if you look at the definition of marginalized community, it encompasses all of this, all of them, because actually after A, there is no or. So it means that it has covered all these. But, Honorable Speaker, if we also have an area here which is in a certain county and it does not cover the entire county, so we need to define that particular community. So we should be not talking about counties. We should be talking about communities and probably isolate and indicate in which counties they fall, so that we don't dwell or limit ourselves to the 14 counties. We also look at the communities, irrespective of which counties they fall. They might not be even the 14 counties that have been identified or stated. Honorable Speaker, as I finalize, I think 4 of my minutes have been eaten by the kind of
the useful intervention benefit from. And by the way, Honorable Farah, in as much as order, I agree with Honorable Gishimu that if to talk about Rakanithi County, and equalize can't be managed, that money would be going to Nithi side, which may not be penalized. I can tell you that money would rightly be targeting southern part of Tharaka, but not the. It is very green.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Actually, that is why I was saying a lot of research needs to be done on this so that we can be able to identify the communities that fall under the definition under the Constitution. And finally, Honorable Speaker, we also need to leave out the representation of the Senate in the management, because how do you oversight and manage at the same time? Because there is a proposal in the bill to have a representative from the county. And also, we also need to be gender sensitive when we are appointing a body to manage such resources. That has not been captured in the bill. And Honorable Speaker, finally, CRA cannot be left out of this game, because under Article 204 and Article 216, they have been tied that there shall be consultation. There must be consultation with the CRA, because CRA has also been mandated under Article 216(4), come up with a criteria to identify. And that is the body that needs to do very serious research, come up with these communities, and we are able to list them in the bill. Honorable Speaker, I beg to support generally, but also with the myriad of amendments at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you for the constitutional interpretation skills you brought to bear on Article 260 and Article 204. I want to give the chance to another great lawyer, the Honorable Moses Kirima, who will be followed by a non-lawyer,
Thank you.
the Honorable Paul Biego, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important bill. And mine is, Mr. Speaker, sir, mine is to say that as much as my learned friend, Mr. Gichimo, Honorable Gichimo, as are trying to interpret the Constitution as per Article 204, there are some things which I find wanting in the same. And because, Mr. Speaker, sir, when we talk of marginalized areas and marginalized communities, there is a distinction between the two, whereby marginalized areas are areas which are far-flung and which are not accessible to the basic necessities as prescribed in Article 204. Far-flung areas from the center of the government or from the center of development. Those are the areas which we refer to as marginalized areas. But when it comes to marginalized communities, as per Article 204, Mr. Speaker, sir, marginalized communities, still, if you look at the prescribed counties, which are here, the 14 counties, you will find that in a place where we have a community, let's say the Somali community, the Meru community, or any other prescribed community in an area, you find that in that community, there couldn't be an area in that same place where that community lives, but the area is marginalized due to its geographical location, its existence or conditions which exist in that area, compared with the same community which is located favorably, geographically, or climatically. And you find that, let's take a place like Darakanidi. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you look at Darakanidi, which is not included in these counties which are defined as marginalized counties, you find that one section of Darakanidi, one section of Meru County, it is in a favorable geographical location in all aspects. But to go to another section of Darakanidi, you find that it's equivalent to Tana River. It's equivalent to Narok. It's equivalent to Kirifi or any other place. And the conditions are so bad to an extent that since I am neighboring that area, my constituency neighbors that area, our own division of Kiago, the one defined as Kiago, it is so much marginalized to an extent that a child is born, goes to school, the school has no teachers, because no teachers would like to go to a place which are not paid hardship allowance. The child grows, he does not see electricity, he does not see water unless the child travels for 20 kilometers to see water or to fetch water. And that child will only manage to see electricity when he goes to Form 1. And it happens that Form 1 must be very far from that area. So you find that it's Meru community. Yes, it's Meru County. And the people who are living in that area are Merus. But within that community, there is a section of that community which is purely marginalized. So I'm praying that when it comes to the people of to be established to vet or to see the areas which are defined as marginalized, they should not just strictly stick to the counties which are mentioned here. They should look at, go and behold what is described here and look at those areas which are really marginalized. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you may get an opportunity to fly over the areas of northern part of Meru, which is the neighboring Samburu, Isiolo, Garissa, and the rest, because we neighbor Garissa in one or the other, and Isiolo. You'll find that there are places which has never been seen around of any nature, not Tamak, neither Maram Road, or any kind of development at all, but there are structures there. Vast structures, and the people living there are pastoralists. They move from one place to the other. And it's not included here. Among the pastoralists or among the communities which requires this kind of equalization fund, they are not defined here. So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that by the time this Article 204 was established, or it was put in our constitution, that time in one or the other has been overtaken by event. And as we speak now, it is somehow discriminatory to areas which are so much affected by the environment or by lack of budget allocation for development. In our debate, as I would play for amendment of the same, when it comes to be presented or when it goes on in this court, there are things to be considered. When we are talking of equalization fund, we should be talking of affirmative action of areas which lack those basic necessities, both water, electricity, roads, health facilities, and the rest. Because we are just living in assumption. There are some counties which we live in assumption that they are the best. But when you go on down to those counties, you'll find that there are some sections and some constituencies which have been purely abandoned. Let's take an example of Meru. If you come to Meru and you happen to travel from Nairobi to Meru town, you may assume that Meru is so much developed. But if you are a little bit going down to some constituencies, let's say Exentroimenti, which has been squeezed in between two giant constituencies, you'll find that things are so terrible to the extent that if it comes to equalization, there are areas which, yes, my colleague would like to inform me, Marim, but if you go to Garissa today, if you go to Wajir today, if you go to Isiolo today, you'll find more tarmacs in those areas than in my area. You'll find more electricity, more development than in my area. So we are all Kenyans. So to me, I won't go as per the article as it is, but we still need some amendment so that they can suit the situation as it is today. This constitution, as it was established in 2010, Mr. Speaker, sir, you remember that it was done in Ireland due to the urgency and the situation which was there, because we wanted to do away with the only constitution. And out of that earnestness and the kind of interference which was coming from all quarters, our soberness was not all that much there, and it was not really ideal. It is that time that we should come back now, after 14 years, to look at the constitution and see what is good for Kenya, what is not good, and what is not discriminatory to all the citizens of this country as taxpayers. Before, things were as it is in the constitution. But what about after 14 years? The areas which you are saying that they were far-flanked and they were marginalized, they happen now to be on front leading those areas which you are saying that they were so much advanced. What has happened? What has happened is that funds have been denied to the areas which were sent to be developed and just channeled to some areas which at present, those areas which were saying that were developed are now becoming marginalized areas. Things are changing. It is vice versa. And before I conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, may I take this ample opportunity to send my condolences to our colleagues who have just passed. We were having Honorable Cheptumo before this house as our colleague last year. last term, this term we and our colleague Honorable Maruru Njedu was just sitting before me here, behind me here, and it is very unfortunate that we have lost these people. And I will not say that it is God's will, because there are some deaths which does not necessarily come from God. As a Christian, I know of a book called Job. In that book, Satan wanted to test a man of God called Job. And he told God that I want to take all his properties, see that if he can denounce you. God told him this: you can take all his properties, but don't touch his life. So we as Christians, we should not be saying that every death comes from God. It's not so. There are some deaths which come from Satan. And I believe it is Satan who has taken our colleagues, and we should condemn him as much as possible through the word of prayer and through the...
Honorable Paul Biego.
Thank you. Opportunity to add my voice. Before I do that, let me also take this opportunity to join my colleagues in mourning colleagues. Senator Fubaringo Jeptumo, our very own Yendi. May his soul rest in peace. He was a very close member to me. I know as much as you do that day being Wednesday, we really missed him in church. Have prayers at 7:30 Mass every morning, Wednesdays, and really missed him. So may his souls of the departed rest in peace. This opportunity you've given me after lawyers talking and trying to intimidate us, they're talking court, won't stop us from presenting or from me supporting this bill. One of the members of the Finance Committee, on the onset here now, I rise to support it in totality. This bill seeks to provide for the administrative structures for the management of the Equalization Fund, established in Article 204 of the Constitution. It establishes the Equalization Fund Advisory Board. Additionally, the bill seeks to outline the structures and responsibilities of bodies or officials tasked with the fund. So I believe that this amendment, which has been done, actually help and make Equalization Fund more visible. I had many of my colleagues saying that they have seen or not appreciated the Equalization Fund. But of course, if it is not in your county, then you know very little about it, because 18 counties. And for now, what we need to be actually discussing about is what amendments should we actually do so that monies that are given under Equalization Fund are well utilized. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the bill will help provide basic services, including water, roads, health, facilities, and electricity to the marginalized areas to the extent necessary to bring quality services or the services to help those areas that are marginalized to actually enjoy services that other counties or other areas which are not marginalized are. Bill also seeks to provide for sources of the funds, and as you were presenting your presentation, you actually mentioned the typo error, corrected, and these amendments are correcting it by including the word 0.5% of all the revenue collected national government. So I seek to actually support this bill in totality. Of Because when I read through the bill, it also requires a representative nominated from the Senate not to be included in the, not to be included, sorry, by replacing 3 other members from organizations working the organization would make it better than actually having a representative from the Senate. So I think I also support that. And in those 3 people T posed, composition of those people, to me, I see is good because at least there's a representative from the people living with disabilities, and like what was in the earlier bill, that there was no representation from that group.
MP for Muya, what is out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on standing order number 35. This is a very important bill, and most members would like to contribute, including myself. And I'm concerned with the issue of quorum. Would you please guide us on quorum, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Let the bell be rung. It's past 10 minutes. Bell to ring for Order, honorable members. Honorable members, the time being 8:32 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 20th day of February 2025 at 2:30 p.m.